Hello, everybody. It's good to be back on here again. We have a fun week ahead with the elections and CPI announcement. I don't see anything that excites me at the moment in the short term, but I was just talking to Brent and we were discussing how there's a lot of negativity out there and everybody seems to know the talking points of the negativity. And while things could get much worse down the road, and I don't really try to predict that because it doesn't seem to make me any money to do that. I think that the market would probably like to grind higher here if people aren't going to shoot each other and tip over voting machines, and if the CPI isn't just going to absolutely blow out to the upside again, which I think both things seem possibly ready to not be as bad as they were, but we'll see. Anyways, I'm going to wait and find some setups if they come after that stuff passes or during that stuff. And it kind of leads me into my talking point today, which is just flowing with life more. And I think it's such an important point because I'm talking to another guy who's super motivated. He's in his early 20s, constantly drawing up processes and structures and exercising and doing breathing exercises and trying, different psychedelics and just everything you can do to get an edge or to progress or to grow spiritually, financially, physically, everything. And a lot of us are like this. And we're always trying to keep pushing and growing. But a lot of times the real magic of life comes from just having the intention to do that and then dropping it and then staying in a good state of mind and staying loose and relaxed, kind of like a flow state of sports or athletics or anything like that. When you're loose and you're relaxed and you're not really, excuse the car here, and it just comes to you. But when you're all geared up to try hard, it doesn't work well. So that goes back to my previous podcast on sizing. So I've been back in the market the last 2 weeks, and I've traded really small versus my old self, and I've had more success instantly because the losers are just who cares? They're small. I can get past them, or I have a loser and it comes back, and all of a sudden it's a winner, and I thought that was a little bit strange, and then I sit with it, and then I'm adding to it, and then it's my biggest winner of the week, and I can feel the market and I can see things, and it's just funny how that works when I can still have a scenario or a thesis or an idea. I always have that, but it's just it gives you that open-mindedness to let go a little bit, not squeeze so hard, kind of like a relationship or when you're trying to date somebody and you're chasing and squeezing and texting, and it's not an attractive quality. But when you're a little bit less reachable, people want to be around you more. When you're a little bit more mysterious, maybe. And I think maybe that doesn't make sense for this, but I think it does make sense in some ways. Basically, I'm trying to have a little bit of momentum and not push too hard and not squeeze too hard. And if I can stay feeling good about my direction every day, because taking big losers doesn't feel good, it can impact you for many days. And if you stay away from that, then you just keep finding ways to do well. Things show up in your life, synchronicities show up. You talk to people, you get ideas, you don't hold them tightly, and then all of a sudden you'll know when to increase your size. At my old firm in Chicago, everyone tried this linear, you make money 3 days in a row and your size goes up. And then you go ask, for more size. And it's so stupid because just because you made money 3 days in a row doesn't mean the fourth day isn't going to be a shitty range day and you're going to have a terrible day on bigger size and you're going to give it all back. Now, sometimes that means you're trading well and there's going to be 30 good days in a row, but generally speaking, it doesn't work that way. And some people might ask, especially when you're struggling, because when you're in a bad mindset, you're in a high beta brainwave, which the blood goes to your extremities and you're basically in fear. That's the mechanism to run from an attacker. And that trading can do that to you regularly. And when you're in that mindset, you want to fix it. You want to trade bigger. How am I going to be able to trade bigger? How am I going to make any damn money if I got this asshole on this podcast telling me that I have to trade so small? How am I ever going to grow? I've done well lately. Can't I increase it? And the answer is incrementalism. It's just that you'll know when to put on more size kind of by accident and you'll just naturally go up. And it always happens if you're doing the right things. I've been through this so many times. And I got away from it because I started to have some success. And then I started to think I need to trade way bigger to move to the next level. And then I held that size. I've seen this happen to a lot of people who are good traders. And it creates a really big downfall. And you have to come back from that and rebuild yourself. And it's just because the negativity and the opportunity cost of getting hit on the bigger size thwarts any ambition or good energy to come in the next day and see things clearly because you're messed up in the head. And that's, I mean, you could look at it argument with a spouse or a relationship, when you blow up like that and you create that damage, take some time to rebuild that trust and that calmness or that peace. Or we've all been anxious for a long time, and you feel that tight feeling in your chest where you can't really relax, and you're doing the dishes as fast as you can. And when you get in that state, it's hard to just quickly get out of it right away because you push past that threshold. So if you can figure out where that spiral starts and you can start picking it off ahead of time, or building routines and habits where you don't go there as much, you're doing the work for you. Like, you're getting in front of it, and you're not having to do that heavy lifting of basically sitting through it and letting it pass. So I think for me right now, and this guy that I was talking to, who I mentioned, who was very ambitious with everything, reminded me a lot of myself when I was younger. And I'm still like that, but getting less so, getting more towards at least trying to be open to just the trades that show up that I don't expect. Those are always the best trades. The ones that you don't see coming, that you can't plan for, that you can't scheme for. Of course, you want to be aware of things and have setups in your mind and understand big areas and levels and narratives, but just not reading so much junk content, so much fear content, being on Twitter, turn all that shit off and focus on what you do well, get in your own world, play some relaxing music during the day, whatever you have to do your exercise. I've been meditating. I have different approach on meditation. A little side tangent here. I used to, after the silent retreats, I was doing it an hour twice a day, like militant checklist type. Get up, do it every day. It's meaningless when you do it that way. Just you're basically shooting and guilting yourself into a practice that you don't even understand why you're doing it, versus like connecting to, you know, connecting to something more peaceful than your day to day, because you want to, and because it's relaxing and fun, and it makes you feel good, and it calms your reactions and puts you in a kinder, more loving state to everybody you interact with. And then that becomes a different way to do it. So I've been doing that. I think I have like 37 days in a row for at least 45 minutes. It's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that with two little kids. It's not that I'm going to die if I don't do a day. It's just that I've wanted to do it and it's felt good. And it's something that I know that when I do it, my life goes better. So I might as well keep doing it. I don't think you have to do it to have a good life either, but it helps. So just like exercise helps. So back to the trading, the meditation version of that was to stay small, especially when it's this busy, and then you get big when you'll just know. And how do you just know? Like, what's an example of that? Like on the last Fed day, I saw the interest rates kind of fall apart when he started talking negatively about no soft landing and stuff, and I knew that interest rates usually lead on Fed day. They lead the stock futures. So I started trading a little smaller, and all of a sudden it started working, and then it worked in a pretty decent way. And then I had a huge pullback to like the 50-day moving average that it just broke through. And I was like, well, if this is going to work, and I think it's probably not going to go too much higher than here. So I started putting a little bit on. And then when it started to move my way, I started to add, and then kind of chase it really tight with stops. And it never got me out and just kept going. And I stopped. It was really easy to hold. That was an example of, I wasn't trying to trade big. I wasn't trying to do anything, but it's set up because I was just willing to do it that way. And if I had gone in trying to kill it, I would have gotten smoked, even though I would have ended up being right. So a big part of my drawdown I had was I was often correct on my ideas, but getting smoked. And it was really painful to be right and lose a lot of money. And that's because I was trading too big, and I had to be right, and I had to grow and expand and do it bigger than last time. And that's not the way you do it. And it's, again, I knew it, but apparently not enough, because I had to learn it again. And then that's trading for you. These things recycle over the years. So it's just another similar podcast to so many of them that I've done, because the stuff is so important, because it never goes away. It's never, when you get better at this stuff, mastering yourself to the degree that you can, it all goes better. It's all easier, and that will never ever change. And systems and levels and this and that and environments all change, but this stuff never changes. And most people can't do this stuff because it's really hard. You have to look at yourself and ask questions and do things that oftentimes, when you're not in this kind of business, you don't have to face so often. And it makes it, I think that's what keeps a lot of us in this kind of work. And that's how it is. And I think at some, we might, some sick level, we love it, but at times you hate it, and that's just the way it is. You love it, but you hate it. You wouldn't wish it on anybody, but hey, if you want to do it, then jump in. So anyways, I'm back on doing it more often right now, and it feels good to be doing that. And we'll see what happens, but I think there'll be a lot more podcasts probably like this in the future. because I'm not sure what matters more than this. I mean, there's a lot of people who are really good at sentiment and being a contrarian, and I like news and events and um, Fed days and where people are stuck and why they're thinking this way. And if it doesn't work, there's going to be a big move the other way. Like I think that way a lot, and that's something I've learned from different people and from trying. I'm aware of technicals, but I'm not necessarily super technical this and that on just a crappy rangy day. That's not going to be good for me. So I try not to get beat up. And then I see where can I take my skill set and my thinking and apply it to other markets. So I'm working on some stock strategies with that same thinking. It's been a little up and down for me doing that. So we'll see how that works. There's sometimes like 8 to 10 times a year that I'll swing trade the index using this kind of thinking, and I'll hold it for 7 to 10 days. I just did one of those where I was long and I got out right kind of at the beginning of the Fed meeting when it wasn't working anymore. So that was a good one. And so I'm working on that stuff. It's just repurposing and reusing one area that I'm strong and trying to figure out where else it'll work versus trying to be somebody I'm not. It's, if you're, there's a grinding ball control team and there's an explosive team who just needs one big quarter. That's kind of how I am. I don't try to be that way. I just am. So if I don't get killed in the meantime, I hang around, then I'm going to have those big moves. But if I try to be the grinder, then I end up over trading and getting caught in the weeds, and I miss the horizon and I miss my move. So that's just a little self stuff from 20 years of doing it. That's just what the data says. Not even I've tried to be this way and be that way, and it just you are what you are, and then you got to make the best of it. So I guess I'll just leave it there.